I wanted to touch on just another thing that I saw just going on in the comment section as we were talking about Brandon Ayuk, and it's the conversation to Deebo Samuel. A lot of people are very upset. There's still a lot of, I would say, resentment towards Deebo Samuel and how his contract situation went down last year with certain fans and the fact that he asked for a trade. I've noticed that, and a lot of people are ready to trade him because he did not have the strongest year. I personally thought that that was more of a case of injury rather than slippage, and I thought he had such a historic season the year before. It was natural for him to have some sort of decline. I think we're going to get a very big bounce back year from Deebo Samuel this year. How do you feel about Deebo Samuel? I will preface it by saying I'm biased. Deebo Samuel is my favorite player on the 49ers, but I don't, even when I saw him last year, Larry, I saw moments and glimpses where he was still Deebo Samuel. I just felt like he was hurt for a lot of the year. And then the Seattle playoff game, he looked like Deebo a little bit. He had an okay game versus Dallas, a little bit inconsistent there in the Dallas game, but ultimately, actually, no, he didn't play too well in the Dallas game, actually, but he played really well versus Seattle. He had an okay finish to the season. He was, I thought, hurt a little. I thought he was basically banged up the entire season. Do you think that he's going to have a bounce back year? Because I do.
It's hard to say. To me, it's all about his conditioning. He needs to stay as light and as explosive as possible. But I mean, the guy's a warrior. He's a tone setter. He's a guy who gets everybody else ready to play. He's just a big time playmaker. He's a money player, but I worry about soft tissue injuries, hammies, that kind of thing. If he lets his legs get out of shape. So he's got a unique build to take the punishment, but he also has the kind of build that has to be, he has to keep his legs, working year round to make sure they don't thicken on him. And so he's absolutely as explosive as he possibly can be. As long as he can maintain that explosiveness, and flexibility in his legs, I think he's got, he should have 2 or 3 pretty good years left before he starts to see a real decline. Or if if he doesn't take care of his legs, he's going to continue to miss more time and he's going to be paid handsomely, but his contribution is not going to be what it was. So it's all about his devotion and commitment to his conditioning. To me, that's the entire story with Deebo. I'm totally sold on him and his skills, his ability to catch, to run, to read the play, running back, wide receiver. He's a warrior, man. The guy's an absolute warrior. It's all about his conditioning and his legs.
Outstanding game day competitor.
No,
and I
shows up to win.
And I would say there's a leadership aspect to Deebo that's gone underrated the last 2 years, Larry. It's not necessarily vocal, but this team really feeds off of Deebo Samuel's energy. Like when Deebo Samuel is playing well and he's setting the tone playing physically, this team is different, right? The Rams games are great examples where Deebo just takes over those games and you can feel a different confidence to the football team when Deebo is, doing what Deebo is doing. And I think I used to compare it to, Frank Gore in 2011 and 2012, right? There were a few guys better on that offense. Michael Crabtree was better than probably their best player in 2012. Vernon Davis was, very good in 2011 and still quite good in 12 and 13. But Gore was kind of the heart and soul of the football team, right? Like they went how Gore went and they fed off of him. I think Deebo Samuel in some ways is the heart and soul of the 49ers. I agree with you that there is a question about his conditioning. And I do think there's a long-term concern with Deebo Samuel just because of how unique the athlete is, right? I've compared him to Zion Williamson in the past. It's not an exact comparison, but the point is usually people that size don't move the way Deebo Samuel does, right? He's built like Anquan Bolden and moves like Percy Harvin. That's not necessarily, you don't put a Ferrari engine in a semi truck. And that's part of what Deebo makes Deebo so special because he's such a unique athlete, but it's also gives you some long-term health concerns. I do think he's got a 3 more good years in him. Definitely, Larry. I think he's still a very, very dangerous player. I saw somebody put in the comments section, I do want to post this, that Forktail Devil P38J says, yeah, a lot of if you look at a lot of how defenses defend the 49ers, even throughout last year when Deebo was healthy, you could see that a lot of times, number one priority on the 49ers offense to stop was Deebo Samuel. That's how it was, schemed up and looked at it. Now, does that mean everything? Not necessarily, but he's still looked at as a very, very good player. I think he still is. I think a lot of people are just sour because they didn't like the way he handled his contract situation. And to those people, I would say get over it. The guy had to do what he had to do to get paid. It's time to move on.
Yeah,
He got his money. He deserved his money. He got his money. And I think that we're gonna see a very big season from Deebo Samuel upcoming.
it's hard to get paid in the NFL, and sometimes sometimes you gotta bust out all the stops. And I, I'll say this: never hitch your your like or dislike of a player to the public, the public information that gets out on his contract. I mean, come on. It's business, it's
Yeah.
business, and business can be cutthroat both ways. So just know that's sometimes you got to play hardball. I mean, and the sad thing, sometimes the very best guys who absolutely never should have to hold
Hmm.
out. Emmett Smith had to hold out. He was the Cowboys of the 90s. They were a freaking dynasty, and Jerry didn't want to pay him, so he had to
Right.
hold
Had to
out.
start 0-2 without
Eventually,
him.
Charles Haley punched a wall over Jerry's head, and Jerry said, maybe I ought to get him signed. They got him signed, and they won the Super Bowl again. So,
Right.
I
He won MVP that
never,
season, didn't
ever,
he, Larry?
ever fault the players for their contracts, ever.
Emmett Smith won MVP that year, right? They started 0-2,
Yeah.
signed Emmett, and then he came
And
back and won
he was the
MVP.
heart and soul,
Yeah. Okay.
heart and
Yeah.
soul of the
And
team.
I, and and the one thing I agree, I also think about Debo that's really really important in this discussion is I don't think anybody leaves it on the field more than Debo Samuel. Like that guy truly puts his heart and soul into that game, and leaves everything on the field. And I feel like when you see the amount of the passion he plays with and the amount he cares, Larry, I can't see him not bouncing back after the season he had, and once again proving that he is one of the elite football players at his position.